The family that mocked my imaginary boyfriend until he showed up at Christmas dinner worth $50 million. My name is Emma. I'm 28. And if there's one thing I've learned about family, it's that they'll dismiss your happiness until it threatens their own sense of superiority. For 3 years, I told my family about Marcus, my boyfriend who lived across the country, who I met during a work conference in Seattle. To them, he was a convenient fiction. The imaginary boyfriend that sad, single Emma invented to save face at family gatherings. "Oh, Marcus can't make it again," my sister Jessica would say with that perfectly practiced smirk. What a shame. We were so looking forward to meeting him. The air quotes around meeting him were invisible, but everyone could see them. Jessica was 25, married to her college sweetheart Brad, and had appointed herself the family's relationship expert. She had the suburban house, the golden retriever, the whole Pinterest-perfect life that made my mother beam with pride. Every family dinner came with updates about their latest home renovation, vacation plans, or Brad's promotion at the accounting firm. Meanwhile, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment downtown, worked as a freelance graphic designer, and apparently had a boyfriend who existed only in my imagination. The breaking point came at Thanksgiving. I was helping my mom in the kitchen when Jessica waltzed in with her phone, scrolling through wedding photos of our cousin Rachel. "Look at Rachel with her husband," she said, holding up the screen. "Isn't it nice when couples actually, exist in the same place at the same time?" She glanced at me pointedly. "Maybe you should try dating someone local, Emma. Someone real." My mother dried her hands on a dish towel and gave me that look. The one that said she agreed, but was trying to be supportive. "Sweetie, we just want you to be happy. It's just hard when we never get to meet him." "You've never asked to meet him," I said quietly. "Because he's never here," Jessica shot back. "It's been 3 years, Emma. 3 years of excuses. Work trips, family obligations, his sick grandmother. At some point, you have to admit that maybe he's not as invested as you think." I felt my chest tighten. "He's busy. He runs his own company." "Sure he does," Jessica laughed. "Let me guess, tech startup? Cryptocurrency? Something conveniently vague that explains why he can never visit." The worst part was that she wasn't entirely wrong about the vague part. Marcus was private about his work. I knew he was in tech, that his company was doing well, but he never wanted to talk specifics. "Work is work," he'd say. "I'd rather talk about us." I thought it was romantic. My family thought it was suspicious. "I'm just saying," Jessica continued, "normal boyfriends want to meet their girlfriend's family. Normal boyfriends don't disappear for weeks at a time with no explanation." "He doesn't disappear," I protested, but even as I said it, I knew how it sounded. Marcus traveled constantly. Sometimes I wouldn't hear from him for days. Then he'd call from Tokyo or London or somewhere equally exotic, apologizing for the silence. "Emma," my mother said gently, "we love you. But we're worried you're wasting your best years on someone who might not be available." That word hit like a slap. Available. As if Marcus was married or gay or didn't exist at all. "He's coming for Christmas," I said suddenly. The words came out before I could stop them. "Marcus is coming for Christmas dinner." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Really," I said, doubling down even as panic set in. "He's clearing his schedule. You'll finally get to meet him." My mother brightened. "Oh, that's wonderful. I'll set an extra place." Jessica smiled, but it wasn't friendly. It was the smile of someone who just won a bet they hadn't even placed yet. "I can't wait," she said sweetly. "Brad and I will finally get to meet the mysterious Marcus." The next morning, I called Marcus in a panic. "Christmas dinner," he said when I explained the situation. "Emma, you know how complicated my schedule is right now. Please," I begged. "I know it's last minute, but they think you're not real. My sister basically called you imaginary to my face." There was a long pause. "What did you tell them about me?" "The truth. That you're smart, successful, that you make me happy." "But what specifically?" I realized I'd never told them specifics because Marcus had never given me any. "I told them you run a tech company." Another pause. "Emma, we need to talk." My heart dropped. "Are you breaking up with me?" "No," he said quickly. "God, no. The opposite, actually. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you something. About my work, about my life. I didn't want it to change things between us." "What do you mean?" "I'll come to Christmas dinner," he said. "But first, I need to be honest with you about who I am." The next day, Marcus flew to my city. Not for Christmas dinner. That was still a week away, but to take me to lunch and finally tell me the truth. We met at a small cafe downtown, the kind of place we'd gone to when we first started dating long distance. He looked nervous, which was unlike him. "Remember when you asked what my company does?" he said after we'd ordered. "And you said it was boring tech stuff." He laughed, but it sounded strained. "It's not boring. And it's not a startup." He pulled out his phone and showed me a news article. "This is my company." I stared at the screen. The headline read, "MindBridge AI raises $2.3 billion in Series D funding, valued at $50 billion. "I don't understand," I said. "I'm the CEO," Marcus said quietly. "I founded MindBridge 8 years ago. We develop artificial intelligence for healthcare applications. The company went public last year." I blinked at him. "You're saying you're worth—" "On paper? About $50 million, personally. The company's worth much more." I set my coffee down carefully, afraid I might drop it. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because of this," he said, gesturing at my shocked expression. "Because I wanted you to love me, not what I have. Because I've been burned before by people who saw dollar signs instead of a person. That's why you travel so much. Board meetings, investor calls, conferences. I've been trying to step back, hire more executives so I can have a normal life. A life with you." I stared at him, this man I'd been dating for 3 years, trying to reconcile the Marcus I knew with the stranger in the news article. "You thought I was a gold digger." "No," he said quickly. "I thought you were perfect. Too perfect. I was afraid that if you knew about the money, it would change things. Change us. So you let my family think you were imaginary instead." He winced. "I didn't know they thought that. You never said." "Because I was embarrassed." I snapped. "I defended you constantly, and you were keeping this massive secret from me." We sat in tense silence. Finally, he reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have told you sooner. I should have made more effort with your family. I was protecting something that didn't need protecting." I looked down at our joined hands. "So what now?" "Now, I meet your family," he said. "If you still want me to." Christmas dinner was set for 6 p.m. Marcus picked me up at 5:30, driving a modest Honda Civic he'd rented at the airport. "Trying not to show off?" I asked. "Trying not to give your sister more ammunition," he replied. I figured I'd ease them into it. My parents lived in a suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where a luxury car would be noticed and talked about. Marcus parked behind Jessica's minivan and took a deep breath. "Ready?" I asked. "Ready," he said, but he looked like he was preparing for battle. My mother answered the door with flour on her apron and a smile that was almost too bright. "You must be Marcus," she said, pulling him into a hug that caught him off guard. "I'm so glad you could finally make it." "Thank you for having me, Mrs. Chun," he said, handing her a bottle of wine that probably cost more than our usual family wine budget but looked appropriately modest. Jessica and Brad were in the living room, and I could feel their eyes assessing Marcus as we walked in. He was handsome in understated way. Jeans, button-down shirt, nothing flashy. Exactly the kind of man who could disappear into a crowd. "So, Marcus," Brad said after introductions, settling back into his chair with the confidence of someone on home turf. "Emma says you're in tech." "I am," Marcus replied simply. "Startup?" Jessica asked, that familiar edge creeping into her voice. "Not exactly," Marcus said. "I run an established company." "What kind of company?" Brad pressed. "I work with a lot of tech firms through my accounting practice." I watched Marcus pause, weighing his words. "We develop AI applications for medical diagnostics." "AI," Jessica repeated with a slight eye roll. "Everyone's in AI these days." "It's a competitive field," Marcus agreed mildly. Dinner proceeded with the usual family chaos. My father's terrible jokes, my mother's endless questions about Marcus's family, Jessica's subtle digs about long-distance relationships. Marcus handled it all with grace, answering questions without volunteering too much information. But I could see Jessica wasn't satisfied. She kept probing, looking for the crack in his story that would prove her right about his being fake or unsuitable. "So where exactly is your company based?" she asked during dessert. "We have offices in several cities," Marcus said. "Seattle, Austin, Boston." "Offices plural," Brad noted. "That sounds expensive." "We do all right," Marcus said with a small smile. Jessica leaned forward. "Come on, Marcus. We're family now. What's the big secret? Are you embarrassed about your job?" "Jessica," my mother warned. "What?" "I'm just curious. He's been dating our Emma for 3 years, and we know nothing about him. No social media, no mutual friends, no nothing. It's weird." The table went quiet. Marcus set down his fork and looked directly at Jessica. "You're right," he said calmly. "I have been secretive. Emma, do you mind if I show them?" I nodded, not sure what he was planning. Marcus pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. But instead of showing them something, he made a call. "Hi, Sarah," he said into the phone. "Sorry to bother you on Christmas, but could you pull up the Forbes article from last month? The one about the company." He paused, listening. "Yes, that one. Could you send me the link?" He hung up and smiled at my confused family. "My assistant is sending me something I think will clear things up." His phone buzzed. He opened the link and handed the phone to Jessica. Her face went white, then red, then white again. "What is it?" Brad asked, craning to see the screen. Jessica's voice came out as a whisper. "MindBridge AI CEO Marcus Torres named Forbes Entrepreneur of the Year." The phone was passed around the table. My parents stared at the article, at the photo of Marcus in a business suit shaking hands with the governor, at the paragraph describing his company's $50 billion valuation. "This is you?" my father asked, looking up from a phone. "That's me," Marcus confirmed. "And your company is worth?" My mother began. "50 billion, yes, ma'am." The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica finally found her voice. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I wanted your daughter to love me for who I am, not what I have," Marcus said simply. "And because I've learned that when people know about money, it changes how they see you, how they treat you." He looked around the table. "I didn't want Emma's family to think I was showing off, or that she was with me for the wrong reasons. I wanted to earn your approval the old-fashioned way. By being invisible." Jessica asked weakly. "By being present when it mattered," Marcus replied. "I know I haven't been around much, and I'm sorry for that. My work has demanded a lot of travel, but I'm changing that. I'm hiring more executives, delegating more responsibilities." He reached over and took my hand. "Because Emma is more important than any business deal." My mother was crying. Happy tears, but tears nonetheless. My father kept staring at the phone, as if the article might disappear. Jessica looked like she'd swallowed her own tongue. "I have one more thing to show you," Marcus said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box. "Emma," he said, turning to face me completely. "I know this isn't how you imagined this happening, but I can't wait any longer." He got down on one knee right there in my parents' dining room, between the leftover turkey and my mother's famous apple pie. "I love you," he said. "I love your fierce loyalty to the people you care about. I love how you defend me even when you don't have all the facts. I love your talent, your kindness, your strength." He opened the box to reveal a ring that definitely wasn't from any normal jewelry store. "Emma Chun, will you marry me?" I was crying, laughing, completely overwhelmed. "Yes," I managed to say. "Yes, obviously yes." The ring slipped onto my finger like it belonged there, and Marcus stood up to kiss me, while my family erupted into chaos around us. My mother was crying harder. My father was shaking Marcus's hand and calling him son. Jessica was staring at my ring with an expression I'd never seen before, pure, undiluted shock mixed with what might have been respect. "How much did that ring cost?" she whispered. Marcus grinned. "More than your house." Later that evening, after Marcus had gone back to his hotel, and I was helping clean up, Jessica cornered me in the kitchen. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "Yes, you do. I was horrible to you. About Marcus, about your relationship. I thought." She shrugged helplessly. "I thought I knew better." "You thought I was pathetic," I said bluntly. She winced. "I thought you were settling. Living in a fantasy because reality wasn't good enough." She looked down at her hands. "Turns out your fantasy was better than anyone's reality. It wasn't about the money, Jess." "I know," she said quickly. "I could see how he looked at you tonight. How you looked at each other. That's real." She paused, then added, "But the money doesn't hurt." I laughed despite myself. "No, it doesn't hurt." We hugged, and for the first time in years, it felt genuine. The wedding was 6 months later. Small, intimate, exactly what we wanted. Marcus insisted on flying the whole family to his house in Malibu for the ceremony. Jessica spent most of the weekend walking around with her mouth hanging open, taking pictures of the ocean view from our bedroom window. "This is insane," she kept saying. "You live here now. This is your life." "This is our life," I corrected her, watching Marcus laugh with my father on the beach below. At the reception, Jessica gave a toast that made everyone cry. To Emma, she said, raising her glass, who taught me that sometimes the most unbelievable things are just the most beautiful truths we're not ready to see. These days, family dinners are different. Not because of the money, though Marcus did help my parents pay off their mortgage, but because I finally have a seat at the grown-ups' table. My relationship isn't questioned, my choices aren't dissected, and my happiness isn't treated like a delusion. Jessica and I are closer now than we've ever been. She calls me for advice, asks about my work, treats me like an equal instead of a little sister who needs guidance. And Marcus, he kept his promise. He hired 2 co-COs to handle day-to-day operations while he focuses on research and development. He travels less, works from home more, and makes it to every family gathering. My mother still can't quite believe it. Sometimes I catch her Googling Marcus just to make sure he's real, as if the articles might disappear and reveal that her daughter's billionaire husband was an elaborate hoax all along. But he's real. We're real. And after years of defending something everyone thought was imaginary, I finally get to live in the truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's proving them so spectacularly wrong that they have to completely recalibrate their understanding of what's possible. Thanks for watching this wild family story. If you enjoyed this tale of hidden wealth and family drama, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. More incredible true stories coming your way soon.